We live in a world powered by illusion, where truth is not denied, but diluted. Systems hum along, fueled by half-light and half-lies, where clarity is a threat and confusion is currency. But what if the fog isn't permanent? What if something ancient, disruptive, and beautiful is breaking through? Stay with us. What you're about to see might just pierce the haze. Once dead in sin, now alive in Christ. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, is a breathtaking sweep from despair to hope. In just a few verses, Paul unveils the radical mercy of God, how we were rescued not by our effort, but by grace, raised up with Christ, and seated in heavenly places. This passage isn't just theology, it's a grace story of divine intervention. Let's step into it together and discover what it means to be made alive. Our text for today is found in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7. Here the apostle delivers a stark contrast between humanity's natural state and God's supernatural mercy. We begin the passage spiritually dead, enslaved to sin, shaped by worldly patterns, and under judgment. But Paul's main point is not condemnation, it's resurrection. But God, he writes, pivoting to the heart of the gospel, rich in mercy and driven by love, God makes us alive with Christ, raises us, and seats us with him in heavenly places. This isn't earned, it's grace. Paul aims to magnify the sheer generosity of God so that we might grasp the depth of our rescue and the height of our new position in Christ.
And you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you formerly walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, of the spirit that is now working in the sons of disobedience. Among them, we too all formerly lived in the lusts of our flesh, indulging the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, even as the rest. But God, being rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our transgressions, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him, and seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, so that in the ages to come he might show the surpassing riches of his grace and kindness toward us in Christ Jesus. Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7.
As we engage Ephesians 2, 1 through 7, it's clear that Paul's language is rich with theological depth. Phrases like dead in trespasses, prince of the power of the air, and seated with Christ in the heavenly places carry profound meaning that isn't immediately obvious. These aren't just poetic expressions, they're loaded with spiritual and historical significance. To grasp the full weight of Paul's message, we'll need to pause and unpack these terms, allowing their context to illuminate the radical grace being described. Paul's use of the word dead in Ephesians 2:1 isn't literal but theological. He's describing a spiritual reality, not a physical one. To be dead in trespasses and sins means to be separated from God, the source of all life, including human flourishing, fulfillment, and meaning. It's like being unplugged from the source of life, unable to respond, change, or rescue ourselves. This death is characterized by captivity to destructive patterns, conformity to a broken world, and hostility toward God. Paul's point isn't that we were weak, it's that we were lifeless. And that's what makes the next phrase so powerful. But God, he doesn't just help us, he resurrects us. Paul's use of dead and alive in Ephesians 2, 1 to 7 isn't just figurative, it's diagnostic. He's identifying the root of our condition. The world system, driven by rebellion and selfishness, drains life. It forms habits that numb, isolate, and destroy. But God is the source of life, and when he acts, he doesn't just improve us, he brings us back to life. To be made alive with Christ means reconnecting to the one who creates life itself. It involves adopting attitudes, practices, and a posture of dependence that produce fruit, joy, peace, love, and purpose. Paul's main point is clear. Death results from disconnection. Life comes from union with God through Christ. When Paul speaks of the course of this world in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, he's not referring to the physical universe or the beauty of creation. He's describing a system, a patterned way of living, that rules human life outside of God. In this context, the cosmos is a framework of meaning, values, and expectations driven by autonomy, pride, and self-preservation. It has its own rules: chase status, protect oneself, consume endlessly, and resist surrender. It has its own goals: comfort without communion, progress without purpose, freedom without fidelity. And it has its own consequences: entropy, futility, frustration, and decay. Paul's diagnosis is clear. The world's course is not neutral. It's designed for lifelessness. That's why trespasses and sins aren't just moral missteps or broken rules. They're participation in a system that cannot produce life. They're the grooves worn into the soul by walking in step with a world that resists God. Paul's point is not that we occasionally veer off track, but that we were on the wrong track entirely, a course set for destruction. The world's system promises vitality, but delivers despair. And into that death-producing rhythm, God intervenes, not to tweak the system, but to rescue us from it. To be made alive in Christ is to be reoriented, to walk in a new course, one that flows from the source of life himself. Paul's phrase, "the prince of the power of the air," evokes a ruler whose domain is confusion, distortion, and deception, what we might call a fog of untruth. The Greek word air refers to the lower, denser atmosphere, suggesting a realm thick with obscurity and manipulation. In Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, Paul describes humanity as walking according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. The Greek phrase is kata ton archon ta tes ex ousias tu eros, literally, according to the ruler of the authority of the air. The word air here refers not to the clear sky uranos, but to the lower atmosphere, the dense, murky region between earth and heaven. In ancient thought, this was often imagined as the domain of spiritual forces, a space teeming with unseen influences. Paul's use of this term is deliberate. He's pointing to a ruler whose power operates in the realm of distortion, where truth is obscured, perception is manipulated, and clarity is hard to find. In our idiom, we might call this fog or smog, a metaphor for propaganda, gaslighting, and systemic confusion. This prince doesn't rule by brute force, but by shaping the atmosphere of thought, emotion, and culture. His power lies in crafting narratives that feel true but lead to despair, division, and destruction. This aligns with Paul's broader diagnosis of the cosmos. It's not just broken, it's misleading. The course of this world is governed by a system that rewards hostility, malice, and futility. And the air we breathe, culturally, emotionally, intellectually, is thick with lies. To walk in that atmosphere is to inhale confusion and exhale disobedience. Paul's point is not just theological, it's deeply experiential. We live in a world where clarity is rare and deception is ambient. But Paul doesn't leave us there. The contrast in verse 4, "but God," signals a rupture in the fog. God's intervention is not just a rescue from sin, but a reorientation to truth. To be made alive in Christ is to breathe clean air, to live in a reality shaped by grace, clarity, and communion. Paul doesn't present God's grace as a gentle correction or moral upgrade. It's a radical intervention, a complete recreation. The one who was dead in trespasses and sins isn't merely forgiven, he's remade. God doesn't just inoculate the chosen one against the world's death-producing system. He performs a kind of heart transplant. The old self, shaped by futility and hostility, is replaced with a new creature, animated by divine life. This isn't metaphorical, it's existential. Grace doesn't just change behavior, it changes being. To be made alive with Christ is to be severed from the old cosmos and grafted into a new one. The world system, ruled by confusion and decay, no longer defines the believer's trajectory. Instead, God creates a new kind of human, one who breathes truth, walks in love, and lives by resurrection power. Paul's language is deliberate. We are raised, seated, and reoriented. Grace is not a patch, it's a new creation. And that newness is not abstract. It's embodied in practices, affections, and a posture of dependence on the one who gives life. Christ is not merely the exemplar of the new creation. He is its essence, its center, its reason for being. In Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 through 7, Paul doesn't present Jesus as a distant ideal to imitate, but as the living environment into which we are placed. If God's judgment reaches beyond behavior to identity, then the only safe place to stand is inside a new identity, and that identity is Christ himself. To be made alive with him is to be redefined by him. Our transformation isn't self-improvement, it's relocation. We are no longer measured by the old self, shaped by the world's course. We are hidden in Christ, raised with him, and seated in the realm where he reigns. He is not just the path, he is the place. Our passage confronts us with a sobering truth. Apart from Christ, we are not just misguided, we are lifeless, caught in a system that drains hope and distorts reality. Paul exposes the course of this world, the fog of deception, and the ruler who thrives on confusion and despair. But he doesn't stop there. He lifts our eyes to the mercy of God, who intervenes not with mere correction, but with resurrection. In Christ, we are not improved, we are remade. We are raised, seated, and redefined by grace. This is not behavior modification, it's new creation. If God's judgment reaches beyond behavior to identity, then the only safe place to stand is inside a new identity. And that identity is Jesus Christ. He is not just the model of life, he is the source of it. To seek him is to step out of the fog and into clarity, out of futility and into purpose. So if you feel the weight of the world's course, if you sense the ache of lifelessness, hear this invitation. Come to Jesus. Let him make you alive. Begin following him, not as a religious duty, but as a resurrection journey. The new creation begins here. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful for your own studies. If you did, please click thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching.